The rain hammered against Marcus Chen's windshield as he drove home from his double shift at the garage, his son's fever medicine sitting in a bag on the passenger seat. He was bone-tired, his hands still stained with grease, his mind calculating whether he could afford both, the medicine and this week's groceries. Then he saw her. A sleek silver Mercedes pulled over on the shoulder, hazard lights blinking desperately through the downpour. A woman in an expensive suit standing helplessly beside the smoking hood. Marcus didn't hesitate. He pulled over, grabbed his toolkit from the trunk, and jogged through the rain toward the stranded car. But when the woman turned around, time seemed to fracture and reconstruct itself in a single heartbeat. Those eyes, that face. Sarah Mitchell, the girl who had been his entire world 20 years ago, before life had pulled them apart like waves separating driftwood. If you believe in second chances, in the power of kindness, and in the beautiful ways life brings people back together, please hit that like button, leave a comment about a time someone showed you unexpected kindness, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that touch the soul. Marcus stood frozen in the rain, water streaming down his face, as Sarah's expression shifted from frustration to confusion, to something that looked like she'd seen a ghost. She whispered his name like a prayer, like a wound reopening, like coming home. 20 years dissolved in an instant. They had been inseparable once. Two kids from the same struggling neighborhood who had dreamed impossible dreams together under streetlights and in the back corner of the public library. Sarah had wanted to change the world through business, to prove that someone from their zip code could sit in boardrooms and make decisions that mattered. Marcus had wanted to be an architect, to design buildings that would make people feel safe and inspired. They had promised forever with the certainty of 18-year-olds who believed love could conquer logistics and poverty and the crushing weight of circumstances beyond their control. But Sarah had gotten the scholarship to Stanford, and Marcus's mother had gotten sick. There had been hospital bills and his younger sister to support and choices that weren't really choices at all. Sarah had begged him to come with her, to find a way, but Marcus had known she needed to fly without the anchor of his collapsing world dragging her down. So he had lied and told her he didn't love her anymore, had watched her leave with tears streaming down both their faces, had carried that sacrifice like a stone in his chest ever since. Now here she was, the CEO of a tech company he'd read about in the business section of newspapers he couldn't afford to buy, wearing a suit that probably cost more than his monthly rent, and looking at him like he was the answer to a question she'd been asking for 2 decades. Marcus cleared his throat and focused on the car, popping the hood with practiced efficiency, his hands moving through diagnostics while his heart tried to climb out of his chest. A blown radiator hose simple enough to patch temporarily. He worked in silence while Sarah stood close enough that he could smell her perfume, something expensive and unfamiliar, nothing like the drugstore body spray she'd worn when they were young. She asked about his life, her voice careful, like she was afraid of what she might learn, and Marcus found himself telling her everything. About his son Elijah, 8 years old and brilliant, and fighting through health issues that had drained Marcus's savings and his marriage and every ounce of strength he had. About working 2 jobs and falling asleep at red lights, and loving that boy with a ferocity that made his earlier love seem like a practice run. About dreams deferred but never quite dead, still sketching building designs in notebooks after Elijah fell asleep, still believing that someday might eventually arrive. Sarah listened with tears streaming down her face, mixing with the rain, and when he finished the temporary repair, she grabbed his grease-stained hand and held on like she was drowning. She told him she'd built her entire empire on the foundation of what they'd dreamed together in that library, that she'd never married because no one had ever been him, that she'd driven this route specifically because it passed through their old neighborhood, like some part of her was always searching. She asked about Elijah, really asked, with the kind of attention that made Marcus realize how long it had been since anyone had truly seen him. Then Sarah did something that would change everything. She pulled out her phone and made a call, and within the hour, arrangements were being made. A specialist for Elijah at the children's hospital she'd donated millions to, a job offer for Marcus in her company's facilities design department, Not charity, but opportunity. Not pity, but partnership. If this story reminded you that some connections never truly break, that kindness creates ripples we can't always see, and that the people we're meant to find will find us even on rainy highways when we least expect it, please take a moment to leave a comment telling us what this story meant to you. As they stood there in the rain beside her broken-down Mercedes, Sarah reached out and touched Marcus's face with a gentleness that undid him completely. She told him she'd never stopped loving him, not through all the years and boardrooms and accomplishments that were supposed to fill the empty spaces. Marcus pulled her close, this woman who was both stranger and soulmate, and felt something he'd thought was permanently broken start to mend. The rain kept falling, but neither of them moved, two people who had taken the long way around finally arriving at the same place. Sometimes life doesn't give us what we want when we want it. Sometimes it gives us what we need exactly when we're ready to receive it. Marcus thought about Elijah, waiting at home with his grandmother, and smiled against Sarah's hair. His son was about to gain not just medical care, but a mother who had been practicing for this role her entire life without knowing it. Please comment below with the word hope if you believe in divine timing and second chances. The story that began with a broken-down car on a rainy highway was really about two hearts that had never stopped running toward each other, even when the road was long and dark and seemed to lead nowhere at all. Marcus Chen, single father and reluctant mechanic, had stopped to help a stranger and found his future waiting in the rain. And as he drove home that night, following Sarah's tow truck to her hotel so they could talk for hours like the kids they used to be, he finally understood that some love stories don't end. They just take the scenic route home.